Am I the jerk for spending time with my friend during a team trip? Last semester, I went on a trip to Chicago with some of my college teammates to see a football game and explore the city. Most of us did not have a lot of money, so we only stayed for one full day and 2 nights in a single Airbnb. I was particularly excited to go because my childhood and high school best friend went to school in Chicago, and I had not seen her in a few years. I talked with my teammates and asked if she could join us during dinner, and everyone said it was fine except for our team captain. Our team captain said she would prefer it to be team only so we could work on team bonding and building relationships with each other. After a few exchanges, I was able to convince her to let my friend join dinner an hour after our reservation, so we had time just as a team while still allowing me to see my friend. When my friend got to dinner, she and my teammates all chatted and got along. At the end of dinner, she invited us all to her own teammate's house party later that night. I thought it sounded fun and did not think it would be an issue because our itinerary only planned stuff from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then we were just going to stay in and watch a movie. Half of my team wanted to go, and the other half did not, so we agreed we would just split off for the night. At this point, our team captain chimed in and said we could not go because she did not want to, and we were using her mother's car, which only she was allowed to drive. I told her it was no problem and that we would just use Uber, but she said as team captain, she would not allow that because Ubers are not safe. I got defensive and said we would be fine together as a group of 4, and that we were adults and did not need her permission to go out. She was mad but ended up going with us because she was adamant about us not taking an Uber. We all had fun, but she stayed in the corner on her phone the whole time. Throughout the next week, she noticeably ignored me and gave me the cold shoulder. I eventually sent her a text asking if everything was okay, and she responded with a very long text saying how I ruined the team trip, was selfish for spending time with my friend, and put her in a difficult position as team captain. Normally, I would just apologize to keep the peace, but this time I rebutted and said she was being controlling, using her position for power, and that she did not even have to go to the house party. Nothing got resolved and we still have not spoken in a few months. I want to make amends so it does not affect our team going forward, but also just do not think I have anything to apologize for. Am I the asshole? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. It's natural to want to catch up with an old friend, especially on a short trip. Your captain seems a bit controlling with the car and party stuff, and it's clear that different ideas about the trip's purpose caused some tension. Everyone should be able to make their own decisions during their free time, and you don't owe anyone an apology for wanting to hang out with your friend. Am I the jerk for not wanting to live separately from my partner? My boyfriend, who is a 22-year-old male, and I, a 21-year-old female, are currently subleasing an apartment until our 1-bedroom is ready in August. I am currently out of a job but get support from my family. My boyfriend pays the bills and gets the necessities. My boyfriend moved here in July or June 2023 to help out a cousin who was going through relationship and financial issues. This same cousin left him here alone 3 months afterward because he was mad that my boyfriend refused to let him and a random girl he just met sleep in his car. Now, this cousin has come back around April 28th. My boyfriend had an apartment that he was going to sublease for the summer but instead let his cousin have it, paid his first month's rent, and now, on top of his cousin not putting in any effort to look for a job, he also decided not to pay the next month's rent, which resulted in him losing that apartment. This cousin is here every single day from start to finish. This past week, he has stayed the night 4 nights in a row. When I asked my boyfriend if he was supposed to be staying with us, he said, "Hell no, I can ask him right now, and he'll tell you no," but since that conversation, this guy has not left. On top of that, he has another friend who barely washes before deciding to spend his day over here as well. My boyfriend feels like he doesn't need to ask or see how I feel when it comes to situations like this with his cousin, or when it comes to me complaining about men being in my face all day every day because he feels like a lot of it is just the principle. For example, the other day, there was a shooting near my apartment that they witnessed the aftermath of, and his cousin stayed the night. While I understand being a little shaken up, especially as we were not sober, I still felt some type of way because he didn't mention to me that he was staying. He just barged into the room with a blanket and pillow. I love my boyfriend so much, but he seems to not consider my feelings or peace. It's like I'm supposed to just accept it because I'm the girlfriend, but that does not work for me. He even has another cousin coming here who said to him on the phone, "For every month I'm there, I'll give you all half the rent." And I looked at my boyfriend, confused, because he never mentioned anything about him coming. The fact that he thinks stuff like this is okay is crazy to me. I just want to know how to go about things. What should my next steps be? What conversation should be had? It's clear that the boyfriend isn't ready for a live-in girlfriend with the way he's letting people come and go without any regard for her feelings. Expecting her to just accept a flophouse situation where people aren't even paying rent is unreasonable. On top of that, the fact that she's not contributing financially doesn't mean she shouldn't have a say in her living environment. If he's running his apartment like this, it's a sign that serious conversations need to be had about boundaries and expectations. Am I the jerk for telling the people my step-siblings invited back from the bar to leave? I live at home with my stepsisters, stepfather, and mother. I'm 24 years old, living at home to save money. My stepsisters are 21 and 24 years old. I'm lucky to live at home and know it's not my house, so I abide by whatever my parents' rules are. They're not unreasonable and are extremely generous to the three of us. A few times, my stepsisters have brought a group of guys back from nights out. Once, they were really loud and kept me up until 3 in the morning, even though I went down and asked them to keep it down and sit in a room that wasn't directly under mine. It was a weeknight and we all have full-time jobs. They also kept my mother and stepfather up, drank a lot of their drinks, and made a big mess which they never clean up. It's always left to me or my parents. They have had the same guys back 3 times since, and I haven't said anything. Again, they drank a lot of alcohol they didn't buy and made a big mess. On Monday, we all went to the bar. I left with my stepfather and we said to my stepsisters not to bring the guys back, but they did. The television and their talking at 1 in the morning woke me up. We have another room with a couch and a television on the other side of the house, which doesn't disturb anyone, so I don't know why they don't sit in there. I texted and asked them to sit somewhere else. They said they would but didn't. So, half an hour later, I went down to tell them all to move into a different room. Neither of my stepsisters said much, but the boys said they were leaving and were pretty rude about it. I went upstairs and heard them all talking about me overreacting, saying they weren't even that loud, etc. I think if it's a weeknight, it's unfair to keep me and everyone else up. The noise stopped 20 minutes later around 2 in the morning. The next morning, I went downstairs and found the kitchen and living room messy with wine bottles and glasses everywhere, pans all over the kitchen, and tobacco sprinkled on the counter. It turned out they also drank fancy whiskey my stepfather was saving and broke 3 glasses my mother had just bought. My mother and stepfather were furious, as they felt very disrespected by everyone coming in, drinking all their alcohol, eating loads of our food, and making so much mess. They both said something to my stepsisters, who haven't even apologized and don't see what they did wrong. They are now avoiding all of us. Their excuse is that they were drunk, so they didn't pay attention to what they were doing, and that they would have cleaned up that night after work. I don't know why they think it would be okay to leave all the mess for a whole day. The sister who I'm closer to is now fully ignoring me for being on the side of our parents and coming down and ruining their fun. They think I'm boring for not just going along with it all and that I'm the one being unreasonable by telling them to be quiet and not thinking it's all so fun. Am I the asshole? I wanted to know if there's maybe another point of view I should be taking. In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. This wouldn't fly if they weren't living with their parents, and it especially doesn't fly when they are being supported by their father. It's extremely rude jerk behavior, and the 24-year-old is also getting a little too old to be acting like this. The parents need to grow a backbone and put a stop to this ridiculous behavior once and for all. The stepsisters are obviously ass as well. Am I the jerk? I think I messed up by standing up for myself. I, a 17-year-old female, am friends with a girl from my class who is 16 years old and has an abusive family. Her father cheats on her mother, and they have a lot of debt. Maybe because of the stress due to her family, she gets sick very often. We have a physics teacher who always wants to know what's wrong with her when she doesn't come to school. She doesn't inform me before she skips school, so I always reply with, "I don't know, no, sir." This makes it seem as if I am an ignorant friend for not knowing what's wrong with her. My physics teacher also glares at me when she doesn't come to school because he thinks it's my responsibility to take care of her and make sure she comes to school every day. After school today, I texted her and asked her to inform me beforehand if she wanted to skip school. She replied, saying that I don't see her messages anyway, so there's no point. I asked her when I didn't reply to her message, and she gave me one example. Out of the hundreds of times I replied to her, she wants to cling to the one time I didn't reply. So I texted her back saying, "Okay, your wish," because I don't want to force her to give me reasons for not coming to school regularly. She snapped back at me, telling me that her health isn't in good condition and that I'm being rude. She always plays the victim card and brings her personal issues into arguments where it doesn't matter. Everyone goes through rough patches in their life, but no one makes it their entire personality. She accused me of other stuff before too, so I didn't want to get too deep into the conversation and let it be her choice. Anyway, when she called me rude, I got very mad because I have always been nothing but nice to her. I explained to her the concepts that she doesn't understand and sent her pictures of my notes on the days she missed school. I snapped back, telling her, "Lol, it seems like you're the one with the problem. All I said was to inform me before you skip school, so I have something to say to the teacher when he asks me." This went on for a while, and she subtly changed the topic, saying that the reason she's mad at me was because I didn't ask her how she was feeling before I started the conversation, and that I was being ignorant of her health. Am I the asshole? You are not the jerk for standing up for yourself, but the teacher should be the one making official inquiries about absences. It's not your job to explain why someone isn't in class. The teacher should contact the reception or whoever keeps attendance records instead of asking you because you're just a student. Just let the teacher know that it's not your business to explain your friend's situation and that it's literally their job to handle it. Am I the jerk if I continue to keep my distance from my sibling, who disowned me for being transgender? Growing up, I, a female to male 24-year-old, looked up to my brother Brian, a 34-year-old male, a lot. We were in an unstable and strict home. Brian was very argumentative and protected me. I later had severe mental health troubles that led to multiple hospitalizations spanning over a year. Afterwards, I realized I was transgender and was outed to my parents by my other brother. My parents reacted poorly. After many fights, they made me sign a contract saying I couldn't tell anyone until after I graduated. I asked if I could at least tell Brian, hoping he'd support me. Initially, my mother said no, but later asked if she could tell him. I agreed, still believing he'd love me. When she told him, he sent me a cruel text message. My mother told me he said awful things, like I wasted their time in the hospital because I knew what my issue was. They should have kicked me out and let me end it, he said. Even worse things my mother wouldn't repeat. It's been 7 years. I've missed everything, including his marriage and the birth of his children. It was hard at first, but now I feel nothing toward him. My problem is my mother pressures me to reconnect with Brian every few months. I have no interest in doing this. She says I should do it for her. When he comes to our house, I have to leave. My father initially agreed with me but now says I need to get over it. I've argued that I don't want to see Brian after everything he said, but my mother denies he said it. I've told her I'd speak to him if he apologized or promised not to yell, but he refused, saying he couldn't. My mother still insists I reach out because she wants the family back together. I believe I have no responsibility to reach out because I was the victim. My mother claims she's a victim too. I've offered many options over the years. I offered to write a letter explaining myself. I agreed to family therapy. I suggested meeting in a public space. I proposed staying home when he visits. For various reasons, Brian or my parents refused. I don't want a relationship with him and don't think there'd ever be a sibling bond again. I've tried so much only because I care about his kids and my mother. In my parents' eyes, it's still on me to fix. I think what he said and how much he's made me miss is a wound too big to heal without an apology. My friends, family, and therapist are split. Some friends say I should forgive him. Others agree he doesn't deserve me. My therapist suggests trying to exist in the same room with him to see what happens. I'm tired of arguing about this but want to respect myself and my boundaries. Am I the asshole? You are not the jerk. Your mother has been stirring the pot and trying to control your coming out, which has seriously affected your relationship with Brian. Your needs for respect, safety, and trust should be a priority over anyone else's wants. She continues to pressure you even after the horrible things Brian said, but you have no obligation to forgive or accept him back into your life. At the end of the day, you have every right to protect yourself, even from family. Am I the jerk for refusing to go on any further family vacations with my in-laws? My husband, who is 33 years old, my 5-year-old stepson, and I, who am 28 years old, spent a week-long vacation in the same house as my parents-in-law, who are 66 years old, my sister-in-law, who is 37 years old, and her family. Her family includes her husband, who is 42 years old, her husband's mother, who is 78 years old, and their 3 young children, who are 4 years old, 2 years old, and 2 years old. The week started off rocky when my family was told we would be in the bunk bedroom with a broken bathroom, while everyone else would be staying in rooms with king-sized beds and working bathrooms. There were no communal bathrooms in this house, and you had to enter a bedroom to use a bathroom. This would not have been an issue if my sister-in-law's husband's mother did not come, because there would have been an additional bedroom for my husband and me to stay in. My parents-in-law admitted that they felt very bad for us, and that my sister-in-law's husband invited his mother without asking them. They did not know how to tell her no, and felt bad asking her to sleep in the bunk room due to her age. My sister-in-law spent the entire week arguing with her husband. One argument was a screaming and crying match that took place in front of my stepson. My husband and I have never argued like this in front of my stepson, so we had to talk to him about how this isn't okay, as he was visibly confused and upset about the situation. We found out that my sister-in-law and her husband have been talking about divorcing over the past couple of months, and that my sister-in-law basically forced her husband to come on the trip. It created an incredibly tense and awkward dynamic in the house. The arguments between my sister-in-law and her husband were so bad that my mother-in-law decided to leave early so that she could fly home with my sister-in-law and her family to act as a buffer. This left my husband and me spending our last day picking up the house, washing all the sheets, and taking out all the trash. This should have been a shared effort, but everyone else was too absorbed with my sister-in-law's drama. I am upset because my family was given the worst room accommodation, despite also having a young child with us. I am upset because the entire week was centered around my sister-in-law and her husband. I am upset that my family was left to clean up after everyone. This is a common theme where my sister-in-law pulls all the attention and concern due to her needs, and my husband is left as an afterthought. I really do like my sister-in-law, but I think she's completely unaware of how her family basically ruined the vacation for everyone. I told my husband I would no longer be attending vacations with his family moving forward, and he agrees. My mother-in-law jokingly said, "Oh, you guys are never doing this again with us, are you?" And I responded, "You're right," very matter-of-factly, which upset my mother-in-law. Am I the asshole? You are not in the wrong here. This honestly sounds like the most miserable experience ever. You, your husband, and your stepson could have left a lot sooner rather than deal with this. That would be the last time to interact with the sister-in-law or stay with any of them. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.